Welcome to another episode of What's the Point podcast, a unique show about men and their mental health. There are no doctors, no professionals, just real men talking about real stuff. And now, the What's the Point podcast, where you are the point.
Welcome, everyone, to another fun episode of What's the Point podcast, where you, our listeners, are the point. I am your co-host, Bill Deckus, and I'm here with our other two co-hosts, Mr. Mark Meyer.
Super glad to be back in studio. I was really looking forward to firing these things up again.
And Mr. Mark Wick, the coach.
Man, it's good to be back. I was going to say it's good to see you guys, but it's good to be back. Hey, it's good to see you guys too.
People don't realize we do see each other more. We talk and text more than most people know, don't we?
Unfortunately.
Wow.
No, we're well connected. Well, Mark leads groups at Face It, and he helps us with the golf event. And last year he was our Point of Light winner. So
No, that was Dad Jim.
no, that was you.
Okay,
That was you.
thanks.
Remember the surprise?
Oh,
You love
forgot.
that. So
Yeah,
we
that's
see each
awesome.
other a lot.
Yeah.
This has been fun. We've taken a little break, and we'll get into that more later. But it's really great to be back. We've got some changes coming up this year that I think people will really like, and we're going to dive into why we're doing this again and what's new and all that kind of stuff as we get going. But we're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to jump back and find out what's been going on with us lately.
Launched in 2009, Face It is a Minneapolis-based nonprofit organization focused on working with men who deal with depression. Using a peer support model that leverages men's groups, mentoring, social activities like retreats, baseball games, and fishing trips, we provide more than 12,000 hours of free services to hundreds of men each year. And yes, I said free. We never charge for any of our peer support programs, and we will never ask you for a copy of your insurance card. If you're tired of feeling alone in your fight against depression, please visit us at faceitfoundation.org or drop Mark or Bill an email at info@faceitfoundation.org.
You're listening to the What's the Point podcast, where you are the point. And now your hosts, Mark Meyer, Bill Deckus, and Mark Wick.
Welcome back, everyone, to What's the Point podcast. You know, Mark, I'll tell you right now, the very first podcast we did was in February of 2021.
That's unbelievable.
Crazy.
The very last one we did, August of 2022.
Oh, my goodness. How many did we do?
We did 35. So we're
35
coming
of
up
them.
on 3 years since we've done this before.
Wow.
A lot has changed. A lot has changed in our own lives. And I think it'd be a good idea to reintroduce ourselves to all the new people, all the new listeners. And so how about you guys? What's going on? What's happened in the last 3 years? What's changed in your life?
You want to go first, Mark? Oh, you want me to go? Okay. Well, let's see. What's changed since we last did this episode? Well, first of all, Face It has grown tremendously. So we have more groups. We have a retreat center we're going to talk about. Mark moved out of the studio apartment that he and I were sharing for a while. So that's been a new adjustment for me, figuring out how to live on my own again.
Yeah.
It's
been nice to get some sleep.
Yeah, no, as far as my life, my gosh, not much is new. My kids are all graduated from college now, so I've entered into this whole new era of trying to define what relationships look like with adult children. Still married, or my wife will still let me in the house, I should say, after 34 years. I'm still fortunately able to be with my beautiful wife, Amy, and gosh, other than that, not a whole lot new with me.
Since August of 2022, you became kind of empty nesters.
We have.
How has that been?
It's been an adjustment, that's for sure. Although, it's interesting. You're an empty nester. Mark, you can probably attest to this, too. You're an empty nester for a while. But as we speak, my son is actually probably moving some of his belongings back into my garage. He and his girlfriend are going to live with us for a few months. But really, it was a big adjustment. And I went through, I definitely grieved the kids finally moving out and sort of the you're never done being a parent, but realistically, look, your kids move out and they need you differently, they need you less. So it's been a journey.
I mean, before, you had to take care of them and feed them and do all that kind of stuff. You had to give them rides everywhere, and now they're kind of spread out kind of around the country, actually, I know. And so there's none of that anymore. It's just hope to get a call or a text from them every now and again.
Yeah, my wife and I have had a lot of conversations about what does it mean to to have a relationship with your adult children, because you have to grow that relationship. You certainly can't apply the same approach to them when they were younger, or you will quickly sour those relationships if you try to tell them how to live their lives. And I'm lucky that I have 3 good kids with whom I can get to walk on this journey of figuring out this relationship with them.
Nice.
But we're always still a parent.
Well, and that is true. And Bill said, we used to have to feed him and give him rides. And interestingly enough, I actually did hit my son up, Ben, for a ride to the Twins game tonight. So maybe these roles start to reverse a little bit.
Finally, payback.
Exactly. He said, well, I have to come get you. And I said, no, we will find our own ride home, but a ride down would be cool.
Don't expect him to pay for your ticket or gas.
No, nothing like that.
Well, if he's living at your house, don't come in late all loud and stuff.
Yeah.
But
also, you know what? Our kids still go through tough times, and we're only as happy as our saddest child.
Yep.
And that doesn't change.
No, not at all.
Interesting way to look at it.
It doesn't change, from when they're in our house or when they're out.
No question.
It always kind of weighs on you.
No question.
So, Mr. Wick, there's been a lot of changes in your life the last 3 years.
There have.
You really don't coach hockey much anymore.
Don't lace them up.
You're and good to know.
You look like you still could.
Yeah. I mean, like in the seniors league. I mean, like a senior.
The super senior.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a good thing Mark didn't bring his glasses, but thank you.
Yeah.
That's what's also happened with Mark. He's aged.
And you've been empty nester for a while, but you've got some new things in your nest, so to speak.
Well, since this time, I haven't. I don't know if we're going to do a whole episode on this, and I'm glad there's video because I've got about 2,500 pictures of my 2 way above average granddaughters. Shortly after we finished, it would have been October of 2022 that my first granddaughter, Grace Louise, was born. So she's 2.5 in Golden Valley, which is awesome. We get to see her a lot.
She's skating already?
Yeah. She's, had a lot of offers, a few NILs. She signed with Gerbers and Pampers and stuff, but it's good.
Well, you and her have the same sponsor on one of them anyway.
But anyways, and then my oldest son, Anders, he and his wife, Annie, who are out in Brooklyn, New York, had a baby girl in January, January 29th, Valerie Camille. And unfortunately, haven't been able to see her as much because of being out there, but that's the beauty of FaceTime and all that type of stuff right now. So very blessed, and we've been able to be out there a few times. My wife, who has recently retired, has been able to get out there a little more often, which has been great.
Nice.
We'll see him here in the next month.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's
it's
awesome.
Fun.
Yeah, it's been a big deal for you. We've seen it firsthand. You're one of those proud grandpas, which I think goes with just about every grandpa.
Yep.
But you seem to be over the top with it.
Well, I think there's a compliment. Thank you. Yep.
What are you doing for work these days?
Yeah, I've also got a job, which is different.
Well, that's new.
Yeah, that's new.
But you were probably still in school when we were recording, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah.
Yep. So this, next month, middle of June, will be 2 years at my job that I started. So I finished my counseling degree. So I've been a therapist at Confluence Counseling since June of 23. So I'm just coming up on 2 years there, probably a couple months away from being fully licensed now. And then going on there.
Does that mean you can charge more?
No.
Oh, that's too
No,
bad.
I know.
That's good.
How are you liking it? Tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a therapist.
I love it. One of the things is when I was on the college campus, when I did my internship down at Mankato, college students, I love that age. Obviously, being a coach as long as I was, that niche was very nice, but I was missing out on some things. So I thought I'll try the general population practice. And I have, from 9-year-old kids to 79-year-old adults, retired. I have couples, the wide range of that. And I love it all.
Challenging?
Absolutely, it's challenging. But, I just, all my clients, all the, issues are unique, and it's super, super rewarding. But I also have been able to stay in the sports realm. So I work with Mankato State men and women, St. Cloud State men's, Gopher women's hockey teams on the mental performance, mental health side. So I don't lace them up anymore, but it allows me to stay in contact with these athletes and be around the athletes and that type of stuff. So I've got the best of both worlds.
Well, and I had the good fortune recently of listening to Mark give a talk at a Minnesota Wild game to lots of hockey players and hockey families, and you really you bring such a unique perspective to the athletic realm and your ability to connect with these younger folks, and obviously all your time coaching, and now you sprinkle in the fact that you're a therapist, and I think it's just incredible. So good on you.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been fun. That work does get in the way of some things sometimes.
Yeah, well, there's
But,
that. There's that.
Pluses, minuses, I guess. But no, it's all good.
Well, it's interesting because you do have a lot of different stuff going on. I mean, I love the part about the colleges that you deal with, and being able to work with kids. I mean, that's kind of what you started at Face It with. You were a leader of a group of younger guys, and that's kind of how it started, which is right in your wheelhouse. You're not young, obviously.
Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, no, you're very older.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have a unique way of interacting with the young kids and touching base with them.
Well, that's kind of my maturity level, so that's where it works out fine.
Right.
So
It's good to know where you fit in.
exactly.
I think that's important.
Yep.
How about you,
How are you,
Bill?
Bill?
Yeah. What's new with you?
I've gotten older. I
haven't noticed.
in a little over a month and a half now. I turned 62. My financial person said since I'm doing odd jobs and podcasts and stuff, I can't afford to take my Social Security yet. So that's been sad. I was looking forward to that. I went and saw my doctor the other day, and he made a reference to something. I said, yeah, well, I turned 62 in a little over a month. He goes, wow, you made it. He seemed surprised. I don't know if that's a HIPAA violation or not, but he did seem kind of surprised when he realized that. Mm-hmm. Not much has really changed in my life, but my wife's has, Wendy. She retired from General Mills just before we ended the podcast. She decided she was just going to retire and just love life. That happened for about 7-8 months, and then said, no, I got to do something. Went out and found another job and did kind of a part-time thing, really part-time, like 2 days a week for 6 hours or something, working in an office, helping with some different things. And then that came to an end, and now she said, nah, I'm done with that. I don't want to work anymore. And she does water aerobics almost every morning, and she goes to lunch with all her friends, and she keeps active. She kind of keeps her house going now that she's got more time and I'm more busy. She's not. She's in charge of the household, and she just turned 65, or she turned 65 in about a month. So she's been spending the last 3 months trying to figure out what Medicare looks like. So that's been a challenge. Mm-hmm. We got to the point where I told her here about a week and a half ago, just make a decision. I don't care. I don't care what you come up with, because there's so many options and everyone tells you something different. So it's been a stressful time as far as that goes. Yep. But at home, no, things are going well. You guys talk about kids and stuff. It was well known before that my wife and I never had children. And we're to the point now in our lives where we're getting older. My wife's retired. We're thinking about what do we do with our legacy and our money and that kind of thing. And we decided instead of just worrying about leaving it to certain people, we're going to start spending it on those people. So here in another month or so.
Wow, I wonder what we're getting.
Yeah. No, don't worry. It's all in the works. It's all documented. The lawyers are texting me right now, actually saying, "Hey, how do you spell Wick?"
Okay.
Yeah. But so we're taking my niece, her husband, and their 2 young daughters to Alaska for 14 days. And we're going to be doing land stuff and going into Mount Denali and all that. We're going to do a cruise. We're going to do salmon fishing. We're going to do whale watching, all kinds of stuff. Wendy and I are both big animal, loving people. So that'll be perfect. The girls, even they're 10 and 13, they're excited as heck. They can't wait to go. They love to fish, like sunnies and crappies and all that. So wait till they bring in a halibut that's taller than them and all that. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to that. But other than that, not a whole lot's changed. I mean, obviously, like you said, Mark, Face It's busy, and we've been growing with that. We've added a retreat center up north in Sturgeon Lake that's taking up some of our time. We have more and more groups all the time. Mark started a group in Duluth. So there's just a lot going on at Face It, too. So it's interesting when you get older and you're still not retired yet. Because I know people even younger than me that are retired and they're going fishing, they're going to play golf, and it's not quite that way. And I don't know if it'll ever be for me. I don't know about you guys. I have to have something to do. I do. So yeah, other than that, not a whole lot new in my life, but super excited to be back doing this.
Very glad to be back.
No, this is awesome. I appreciate it. And obviously, Bill, you put a lot together with this, so it's much appreciated to be back in here because we've heard a lot about it from people, and it's from a selfish standpoint, it's just fun to do. So,
Yep. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what's new, what's going to be the same as before, what's going to be different, what people can expect. So we'll be right back after this.
At Brand Inc., we know your business's reputation rides on every detail, especially when it's on the road. Our commercial vehicle wraps combine eye-catching design, 3M-backed installation, and a seamless process built for busy teams. Whether it's one truck or an entire fleet, we help you turn heads, build trust, and grow your business. Your vehicles are always moving. Make sure your brand moves with them. Start your project at brandinc.com. That's Inc with a K, brandinc.com.
You're listening to the What's the Point podcast, where you are the point. And now your hosts, Mark Meyer, Bill Deckus, and Mark Wick.
All right, welcome back once again to What's the Point podcast, where you, our listener, is the point. And actually, we've learned over time, we have quite a few listeners, as a matter of fact. Remember, we haven't done this podcast for 3 years, and we still get people that come to Face It for the first time. We ask them how they found out about us, and they'll say, oh, I heard it on a podcast. It's like, wow, I don't even know where those things are anymore. Good for you. So the podcast made a difference. They really did. It's hard to quantify, but they made a difference. So that's why, with talking with you guys, we decided to do this up again. And it's a great way. It's fun for us to do, certainly. It's a great way to connect with guys. What guys really appreciate, what they tell us, is listening to the stories of other regular guys and how they can be at home listening to the podcast and they can relate to it. That's the power of what we've been doing. We did for 35 episodes, and now we're ready to do more. So as far as things being the same, it's just still the three of us. We're the same. We're older. But that's the same. We're going to have guests. It's going to be guests from Face It, just like we did before. A lot of guys just joining in and going to sit in with us, and they're going to tell us about their journey, their struggles, their challenges, and what they've done to get better. So we have a couple changes. We are in a brand new studio. It's always, you always say, how's the sausage made? You don't always need to know that. We used to do this out of our office. We had our own equipment. We fudged around and tried to make it work. And then we sent that file off to a producer who actually edited it and put it all together. Edited the commercials and the different things. That's how it went before. Now it's different. Now we're in a studio, a more professional studio. And the same producer before, Andy, is someone who is actually joining our podcast now this year. So, Andy, why don't you tell people a little bit about you so they know who we're talking with?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose listeners to your podcast don't know who I am. Even though I've always been there in the shadows. Well, let's see. I've been doing the Family, a.k.a. Tom Bernard podcast, a.k.a. Tom Bernard Show. We probably had other titles in the past 13 years as well, but I've been doing that for the past 13 years. It's a podcast we do with my family, my dad, my mom, and my sister, usually.
13 years, holy cow.
Yeah, 2022 we started, or 2012 we started it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and that's actually how you met me. You came on our show as the Face It Foundation.
Yep.
And I forget, was it just... Who was on that episode?
Doug.
Okay.
Doug's the one that we connected with through Walzer, and then he brought Mark and I in.
Right, yeah. Doug had, Mark and you in. So that's right. You came on our show, and you were like, hey, I'm thinking of making a podcast, and do you think you could help me with that? And I was like, sure. Like, get you the equipment, doing the producing and stuff like that, and... Yeah, it was, we did that for a couple of years. You said it only lasted for a year and a half?
Yeah.
Man, it feels like, for one, it feels like a long time ago, not 3 years.
Right.
I don't know why, but, I mean, in that amount of time, I did have a whole lot of life events.
I'd say you've had some changes in your life.
Oh, I sure have. I mean, so let's see, you said when did it start? 2021 when?
February of 2021.
February of 2021. So, yeah, since then, yeah, I've moved. I've had 2 children, so I've got two boys.
Above average?
In what way? Because size-wise, one of my sons, yes, he is a rather large child.
All right.
But mentally, it's 3.5. It's hard to say. Some days he's extremely gifted, and some days he's extremely not gifted. And that's how it goes. But yeah, I moved out to the country. I've had thyroid cancer.
Oh, gosh.
I think that's about it for the past 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So, decent amount of life changes.
Sure.
It's a lot.
Well, and in fairness, the Information Act here is that Andy's not part of Face It. He's
Right.
nothing like that. You're just basically, as we say, just a regular guy. And I've learned over time through your podcast, getting to know you, that I love your insight, I love your perspective, I love your humor, and we thought it'd be a good mix to have another voice in this. And we're really glad that you agreed to join in with us on this.
Well, thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be much help when it comes to all the jokes you make about being old
Wow.
with each other.
Oh, no. Good job on that one. Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
thanks.
All you do is rib on each other about being old.
Well,
what am I supposed to say?
and
I
it
can't be disrespectful.
Well, maybe it's good for us to have a youth perspective on the show now.
Yeah, I'm breaching middle age shortly, so
How old are you, Andy?
38.
Okay.
I don't even remember 38.
I don't even get to claim being young for too much longer. Also, the whole aging acceleration after you have kids thing, it's hitting.
Yeah, how's that? That's got to be a lot. I know Mark used to always say when you have a kid, there's a new major life event every 6 months.
Oh, absolutely.
They learn something new, and now they're crawling, now they're walking, now they're, all that kind of stuff.
And he's 3.5, and he's still, like, every couple of months, he's, like, got this new thing that he's able to do. And it's just, like, because he's going to be starting to read pretty soon, I think. He can already read numbers.
Wow, so can Mark.
Wow.
Well, but mine's 3.5. He's how old?
Yeah.
I'm 44.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it's 40-year head start. But
Yeah. Mark doesn't remember 44 seriously. He's way older than that. Don't let him fall. Don't let his youthful appearance let you think that. So.
Well, I'm just waiting for this podcast to start. When are we going to start recording?
Also,
Who am I and why am I here?
Yeah. Who am I and why am I here?
When's my peach cobbler getting here?
Yep.
That's not funny.
No, and Annie, you listened to 35 of them before, and obviously we certainly laugh and joke a lot, but we talk about some serious issues here with mental health, and we've delved into suicide and all kinds of other topics, and that's the thing about Face It too. And this is the podcast is just an offshoot of Face It Foundation that we run. But, we talk about serious stuff. You're going to hear guests that are going to talk about suicide and marriage and kids and communication and shame and all kinds of things. But that's what we talk about at Face It, isn't it, Mark?
Absolutely. I think whenever you give a man an environment in which he feels safe and comfortable, guys will open up and guys will share just about anything. I was actually having coffee this morning with a guy who I met at a community event a few weeks ago, and actually we'll have to get him on here as a guest. We sat together for it took us about 12 minutes before he revealed to me that his brother had molested him for a number of years during his childhood. And he said, I've talked about this a little bit before, but why did I just tell you that? He said, I don't even hardly know you. And I said, well, because you probably feel like it's a safe place to do it. And he goes, you know what? You're right. And guys, they carry all this stuff around, and throughout the course of the entire conversation with this guy, I heard a number of cliches of, from, well, I don't want to complain about stuff. And I said, well, talking about things isn't complaining, to, well, I don't have it so bad. Well, you just shared with me your childhood was, part of it was being molested by your brother. And, I think that you give, and Mark, you see this in your groups, and you know this, you give a guy a safe place. And Mark, I think about when I met you and we had lunch and we started sharing right away because we both knew we were, we both had some of the same past.
To think about even the night that I spoke at the Wild game, Face It had a table there.
Yep.
Anybody come up and share some experiences? About, my child died by suicide, a close friend of mine died by suicide. I've dealt with this, right? Because they know that, and I don't really like this term, but it's okay to talk about that here. It's a safe space. They're going to get me, right? They may understand. And I think, we want to talk about it, but we also know that certain places we're going to get judged. It's going to be held against us. There's still a stigma out there and stuff. And sometimes we don't think anybody understands what we're going through. So when you find those people, it is comforting to be able to open up. And I think that, I'm sure you've seen that countless times, in all the events that you do, and just being out there when people know you from Face It and what Face It does, that comfort level of being able to share.
Well, and the power of Face It is peer support. It's someone that's been through it can understand.
Yep.
We touched recently earlier that we have a retreat facility next week where you got 10 fathers that are going up there for a 3-day retreat that have all lost kids to suicide.
Yep.
I don't know what to tell them. I can be empathetic. I can give them a hug. But until you've walked that road,
Yep.
that's going to be a hard one.
But you're providing the space
Right.
for them to have that.
And that's
Because
where they
for
can all
them,
sit and talk. Yep.
Absolutely. And,
Yep.
I can only imagine how powerful that weekend is going to be for those men, and how healing it's going to be, and how much weight it's going to take off of them to know that people understand me.
I talked with the person running it, and we have a big fire pit out there with all the chairs around. And we talked about finding a conversations while you're sitting out there at the fire pit at one night. And I said, "What are some topics you want to talk about?" First thing he said was regrets. Yeah, that's got to be a big one.
Yep.
And what is the hardest thing so far in your journey of this? What is the thing that surprised you most? There are so many questions that the rest of us have no input on.
Nope.
But these guys can all answer it for each other and be there for that. We also have a group at Face It called the Face It Moms. And this is a perfect example. One time we had a dinner. We went to dinner with a bunch of them. And one of them spoke up and said, a mom has one job, and that's to keep their child safe. And she said, I failed. I don't know what to say to that. Mark didn't know what to say to that. The other mothers did.
Absolutely.
Got up, hugged her. It's okay, that kind of thing. That's the power of Face It. That's the power of putting guys in a safe environment with people that can understand what they're going through.
Yep.
This mental health is hard because we think it's a weakness. We think it's something we should just get over. We should just take care of. I always say it takes a lot more strength to ask for help than it does just to kind of fight through it. Because when we fight through it, we don't really fight through it. We don't really face it, right?
Yep.
We were just talking to a guy the other day, I was thinking about joining a group, who talks about he's had some trauma in his life, and he put it in a box, and he put it up on the shelf, and he wrapped like some chains around it and put like 4 padlocks on it. There, it's taken care of. No, it's not.
Nope. It's
always with you. And you can put more chains on, more padlocks on, but it's still always with you.
Yep.
So it's that part's is the cool part about Face It. And Mark, you always say that we've had front row seats to miracles.
It's you think about it, we're going into year 16 now that we've been going. We have 24 groups, a group in Duluth, a group in Northfield. We've got a retreat center. We've got classes, we've got programs. We have so much going on. And you think about the guys that have come in and all their traumas and all their burdens and their willingness to just share and open up. And, the part that you talked about it earlier, both of you, the cool part is simply we've created the place. And the guys do the work. And the guys care for each other. Mark, I don't know about you, Bill. I certainly know you have seen it, and I'm sure you have, Mark, too. The number of men I've watched hug one another, the number of men I've watched who have shed tears of joy, pain, sorrow, grief, happiness, you name it. The number of men who say, gosh, I've never, ever shared this before with anyone, and then proceed to unburden themselves of tremendous amounts of pain. It has really been a gift to be part of this and to watch it.
Absolutely. And the number of guys, most of our groups are connected with GroupMe that reach out and say, hey, I'm going through this. And people are like, what can I do? Let's go out. Can we meet for coffee? Do you want to go to a bar? Just the support of one another has been amazing, because before this, I don't think a lot of us have had support.
Right.
Men, we're not in those same types of relationships with other guys.
I remember back when we first got going, and a good friend of mine was one of our initial board members, and I remember talking to him saying, we don't know what we're doing, we don't know what this thing is going to be, we don't know where it's going to go, and he looked at me and he said, if you just keep at it, you keep trying to help these guys and let it do its thing, it'll do its thing. And here we are 16 years later, and it is really doing its thing. And it needs some driving at times, and it needs guidance and support and funding and all that stuff. But really, the thing it does is just bring people together, and it's love and it's kindness, and it's just unbelievable to me to think about what's going on.
Well, and you talk about bringing people together. I mean, share more about a lot of the other things we do besides just our regular groups. Talk about bringing guys together. You're going to the Twins game tonight.
Yeah, we have a guy who has gone above and beyond the call of duty to try to get things donated to Face It, and somehow he managed to get the Twins. They were losing at the time the game. This was pre-13 game winning streak. But my dear friend Andy got like 200 tickets donated over the course of 10, 12 games, and guys have been going to the Twins game, and rows of guys. I've gotten more text messages and pictures from guys saying, "Hey, I'm at the Twins game. I met a new friend, and I made a new friend." And again, is it about the Twins game? Sure, it's fun to watch the Twins. It's fun to watch them win and sit at the ballpark on a beautiful night, but it's about connection. That's what I see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the cool part. I mean, whether it's our retreats we do, our monthly men's breakfast, the Twins game, classes we've put on, different things, all those kinds of things. You know, Mark put on a class a couple of years ago called The Fathers We Grew Up With and the Fathers We Become. It was powerful. It was powerful, where guys are talking about their childhood and things they learned from when they were a kid, and now they're fathers, and now they're experiencing some of the same thing. And, you know, maybe they can relate to what their father was going through a little bit more back then, now that they're on that journey themselves. You know, I think about you, Andy. I mean, you're the young guy with the younger guy with the young kids, and I mean, that's got to be quite the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually just wondering, so you said you're a new grandpa, Mark.
Yes.
How old are they?
2.5 and 4 months.
Oh, so just about the same age as my kids. Yeah,
Yep.
I got 3.5 and I got a 7-month-old.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's certainly been an experience.
Absolutely.
It's also why I'm very, very tired today.
I was going to say, you look pretty good for not having slept in almost 3 years.
Yeah, no, it's last night's sleep could have been better.
Yep.
But the kids teething.
Yep.
Teething's always the most fun part of parenthood, I think.
Andy, have you had moments as a parent where you wonder, am I capable of doing this? Am I going to be a good dad?
Well, I think everyone does, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you don't, then something's probably wrong with you.
Tell us a little bit about maybe what you've closed your eyes at night and wondered or had concerns about, and who do you share that with?
Well, I mean, physically, there's just the whole, like, can I get another night of, 5 hours of sleep? Can I handle that? But, I mean, if we're talking about raising kids on a more, metaphysical sense, it's just, so right now, we got a 3.5-year-old, and he's just come out of his constant tantrum phase and into the not listening phase. And it's like, I don't know, if he's going to be like this for another year, it's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to have to ship him off somewhere and get myself some reprieve, or how's this going to work? But, I mean, it seems like even if you feel like you can't do it again the next day, when the next day comes, you can do it again. I can't really explain it. I think it's just, we're hardwired to take care of our kids no matter what, for the most part. And if we weren't, I mean, can you imagine what humanity would be like if we weren't wired to not want to throw our kids off a bridge every time they screamed in our faces?
Right.
There'd be no humans, because that's what kids do.
Well, we've certainly met a lot of guys along the way, and gosh, I'll even throw myself under the bus here. At various points in my struggles with my mental health issues, and there were times I was not a very present father, and I to this day I still carry some regret around that, and have had some conversations with my own kids about ways in which I was not there for them, and it's an interesting experience because all three of my kids have. Particularly looking back to the time I was hospitalized, my kids were about the ages of Mark, your grandkids, and Andy, your kids. And my oldest, who was 5.5 at the time, obviously has a different experience with me. But, being a dad is hard, and it's and we think we're hardwired, and we think we've got all the tools necessary. And the reality is we still need support, and we still need to talk to people. And when I see some of these younger guys coming in to Face It, and they're getting ready to, or they have kids, and they have these young kids, gosh, Mark, I don't know about you, but I sure wish I would have talked more openly about my struggles, my frustrations. Bill, you had a guy in group who you said he came and he had a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and you assume he came for a nap.
Yeah. Yeah, I assume he just wanted to sleep. And we said, you can.
Yep.
And we'll take a picture and tell your wife you're working on your mental health and everything, but you can go lay on that couch. Because he, and you talk about it, Andy, I mean, he just looked wasted. And he talked about that all the time. I have no time. There's very little sleep. There's always something, and now you've added a second one, Andy. So now you're kind of starting that process all over again, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, the reason I didn't get sleep is because my wife was up until like 11:30 working from home, because the only time she really gets to work from home are either after the kids are in bed, which is like 8:30 and later, or, when I come home for a little while, I watch the kids while she does some work and that sort of thing. We kind of have to schedule our lives around, them. And even though work is something everyone needs to do, I mean, I think making sure your kid doesn't, electrocute himself or something is always going to come before that. So it's like, I've got to work, but I'm the only one watching these kids, so I'm not going to work.
And you talk about those tantrums and just the emotions, because they don't have the words, they don't have all that. And that can become super frustrating, and then you're doing it on 5 hours of sleep a night. And then to really make yourself feel a lot better, you should go on social media.
Right.
Yeah, there's a
Because
reason I don't have any accounts.
Every picture of every kid out there, I guarantee you, like most of the pictures of the 2,500 I have on my phone are of my granddaughters smiling.
Oh, I've got plenty of pictures of my
not when they're
kids.
screaming, right?
Right.
Like those are the things that we put out there for people to see. See my wonderful. And again, when we're in that really bad spot, it's like, why can't my kids be like that?
Yep.
Your kids are no different than theirs. And and I think that's one of the things that I've enjoyed about being a therapist now, because I'm older. Like I
Yeah,
have
you
these. I'm really old. Thank you.
See, there it is. I told you.
Yep. And, but, I have these experiences where these parents like you are like, oh, our kids don't do this, don't do this. I'm like, how are your school conferences? Oh, they all said they're angels. I'm like, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Because your kids feel safe at home, that they can act out, that they can push these boundaries, but around others, they're doing this, and you talk about Mark. There were many times I felt like a terrible parent, that I was the worst. I tell you what, my kids still call me.
Yeah.
They still tell me they love me. They still show up, right? You're going to a baseball game with your son, right? That we don't always feel that way, but that doesn't mean it's true.
And I think that the point that I'm really thinking about as I sit here and having this conversation with you, Andy, and Mark, just kind of reflecting back on some of this. I'm sure there were podcasts back when I was raising my kids, but I certainly wasn't listening to them, and I certainly know they weren't common, where we would talk about what's it like to be a dad and what's the emotional aspect of this and how do I best manage this. And of course, there's all these practical, pragmatic things. You don't get enough sleep. Your time is no longer your own. And at the same time, this idea that you're immune from any sort of emotional reaction, that it takes a toll on your marriage if you're not careful. And how do we manage that? Because it's not always easy to have date night, or there's not always time for those things. And how do we keep communicating? And it really is a critical juncture. And I don't know if Bill, you or Mark have read this, but there's postpartum depression in men. I mean, it's well documented, and it's absolutely talked about. And what is it? I mean, it's we could have great conversations about what it means, but it's a changing of roles. It's a new level of expectations. And I know from my own mental health journey, having kids is what challenged my mental health more than anything, because A, I was a perfectionist. B, I wanted to make sure I undid everything that didn't turn out the way I wanted my own childhood to turn out. And C, I just couldn't accomplish either one of those very well. And so I really beat myself up when my kids were young.
Mm-hmm. When you think about it too, I mean, like you say, so many parents do that. But look at all the stuff you guys all have had to go through and do, and the worry and the stress, and you're worried about money, and you're worried about health, and you're worried about your relationship, and you got to get to work, like you talked about, and you still got to work. You got to do this, but you can't let your kid put a fork in the outlet. I mean, it's amazing. Sometimes you guys are just still standing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that was the guy that came in. That I have a 1, a 2, and a 4-year-old. Man, just sit down. That's okay.
Right.
I mean, because he didn't even know which way to turn anymore. Right. But like you said, Andy, though, he just got up the next day and went at it again.
Well, I mean, I think we are hardwired to a degree, but there's also limits to the human body and the human mind. It's like you can't just not sleep. No matter how much you want to take care of your kids, you need sleep or you're going to die. That's just a fact of life. So it's like you need to do stuff for yourself, for sure.
And I think this is a classic juncture where men tend to minimize and say it's no big deal. Everybody's a parent. Everybody's got to figure this out. I don't want to complain. That was a conversation I had this morning with this guy. We have to reframe these conversations. Nobody's complaining. Nobody is complaining. People are talking about their challenges. You want to turn this into a business concept? We're brainstorming. How do I manage this? How do I do this? But the minute we start saying, I got to quit complaining, I got to just get over it, I just got to be a good dad, you're absolutely tying a hand behind your back, don't you think?
Well, I mean, if you're at risk of falling asleep behind the wheel on your way to work or something, you're not complaining. That's a legitimate concern.
Right.
And I think that, we need to do exactly what you said, that narrative, change the narrative. Change the narrative of it's a weakness, right? That it's a strength aspect. Change the narrative of I'm complaining. Change the narrative of, well, I don't have as bad as somebody else. It's not a competition, right? To have these conversations and change that, I'm just going to say, because this is a thing that I'm biased on, is the sleep thing, right? That's in wartime, we use it as torture.
Right.
Sleep deprivation.
Sleep deprivation, yeah. Yep.
And yet we think, when people say, I'll just sleep when I'm dead. Well, no, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
It has a huge impact on our mental health.
You might be dead sooner. Well, restorative sleep is probably the greatest preventative medicine we have for any mental health condition. And of course, it's hard to come by when the kids are young.
Yep.
And how many guys, I would never take a nap back in the day. I wouldn't be caught dead taking a nap because I felt so damn guilty about it that I wouldn't do it. Well, it's absurd. Why not grab a 15, 20-minute nap? Why not figure out with you and your partner how you're going to best do this so you can each get a break here and there? It is reframing the narrative for sure.
Well, it's interesting you talked about reframing the narrative. It reminded me of a thing in Japan called work sleep. Pretty simple term there. So Japanese people, they're pretty renowned for working very hard. And there's a thing that they do is they will just go to sleep at their desk in the middle of their work. And in America, if you did that, you'd be one warning, you do it again, you're fired. But in Japan, it's actually seen as a sign of a hard worker. It means you're working so hard that you're in need of sleep. Oh. And because, they know that everyone needs sleep. So it's like, okay, well, you've clearly been putting in the hours. Otherwise, you wouldn't be just so exhausted. You're going to collapse at your desk. So good on you. So two different cultures, two very different responses to something that is basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, learning to take care of oneself is it's a challenge because, I don't know, I think so many times the message is put your own needs aside and just continue forward. But it's the most basic and simple analogy is, you're in the airplane and if the cabin loses air pressure, you're putting your mask on first because if you can't breathe, you're not of much value to anybody else.
They have a word for that. Taking care of yourself. Self something.
What is it? Man. Huh.
Yeah,
well,
you guys are both licensed. I expected so much more from you guys.
We'll do some research on that. Mark was just taking a quick nap, so I was going to do a quick Google search on what it is.
Because I'm really good at telling other people what to do.
You think about it. If I say to you, hey, what's your self-care routine? Nobody knows what that. Not nobody, but
right. Very few.
We can spit out a few things, but do you actually do it and follow through on it?
Yeah.
Because we're more interested in helping somebody else out.
Yeah.
Mark, we do this a lot when we meet new guys, and you'll say this phrase, and it really makes sense. You put another 4 or 5 guys in this circle that we have here, and this is what a group is like at Face It. It really is. The topics are all over the place. It's not just here's my depression or my anxiety. It could be, man, I am just not sleeping, and it's impossible for me to function. And by the way, I'm getting short and crabby, and everyone's getting sick of it.
Yeah.
And some guys will say, well, no, try this, or this is what I did, or you know what, you're just in the middle of it. You're going to have to just work with that, that kind of thing. So that's the power of this. So this is basically like a group, what happens at Face It. So if you're a new person listening to this and you're wondering about Face It, this can be something like a group setting if you just add a few more voices in. And it's been wildly successful. Mark, I think you added up recently. Over the years, we've had well over, couple thousand people, guys come through that we've interacted with?
Well, just groups alone, I think I've estimated we've had over 2,000 men cycle through our groups.
Yeah.
And it, to varying degrees of success, as with all of them. And we don't track people. We don't keep records or do pre and post testing of any sort. But the reality is that several hundred men have had the chance to interact with other men in a way that most have never. Whenever a guy comes in to Face It, and Mark and Bill, you certainly experience this leading groups, one of the questions I ask him is, you ever sat in a room with 9 other men and shared your feelings? And you weren't compelled by court or a partner or work? And invariably the answer is, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
And you want me to do what? And the other one we hear all the time from guys is, well, I'll come to these groups, but I'm not going to talk. Yeah. Well, that's the guy that goes home with a sore throat because he finally had a place to talk and he couldn't stop because he's been carrying this around for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot of neat things. And that's the power, I think, of the podcast is it gives guys a feeling of what a group setting might be like when we have guests in from Face It and other guys. We're going to talk just like we are now. Yep. Getting more perspectives, more conversation going. That's what we're all about, is deeper conversation. So that's the power of this. There are millions, well, not millions, that's probably exaggeration. There are thousands of podcasts out there about mental health, and all that. But a lot of them are professionals. And I mean, I know you two are licensed. You don't play the role of professional at all. Neither of you.
Nope.
So money well spent, guys.
Yep,
but I mean, this is regular guys. This is regular guys just like us talking about things in our lives and the challenges we have. And I think that's what really resonates with new guys that come to Face It. So we're gonna do some episodes where it's just the 4 of us. We're gonna do some episodes where we have guys from Face It come in and talk. We're gonna have episodes where we have guys come in people that come in that aren't part of Face It to get a different perspective on some stuff. We got a lot of ideas coming up, and I think it's really going to be fun as we move forward. So this has been great to let people know what we're all about. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to try a new episode, a new bit we have, and it's called What Have We Learned Today?
Launched in 2009, Face It is a Minneapolis-based nonprofit organization focused on working with men who deal with depression. Using a peer support model that leverages men's groups, mentoring, social activities like retreats, baseball games, and fishing trips, we provide more than 12,000 hours of free services to hundreds of men each year. And yes, I said free. We never charge for any of our peer support programs, and we will never ask you for a copy of your insurance card. If you're tired of feeling alone in your fight against depression, please visit us at faceitfoundation.org or drop Mark or Bill an email at info@faceitfoundation.org.
You're listening to the What's the Point podcast, where you are the point. And now your hosts, Mark Meyer, Bill Deckus, and Mark Wick.
Welcome back, everyone, to What's the Point podcast, where you, our listeners, are the point. We kept the podcast kind of the same format as we did before, but one thing we've added, and I stole this from a sports podcast that I listened to, what have we learned today? What have we learned today?
Why don't you start? Look at that. See, I'm going to throw you for a loop there. You thought you were going to look at us, wait to hear what we had to say, and then jump on like you know. What have you learned today, Bill?
You don't know everything.
I don't know anything, quite frankly, but I know you're blushing.
Thanks for joining us in the podcast, everyone. No. What have I learned? I've learned some of the challenges and how fathers feel about when they have kids and how they feel inadequate. As a person who doesn't have kids, I've certainly learned that from you guys. All 3 of you talked about that. That's a big thing I've learned. I've learned that, and this is kind of funny, I've learned that I think having a voice like Andy's in will make a big difference in our podcast. It's a different perspective. It's not from Face It. It's not from a mental health group perspective, but it's real life stuff. And it was great hearing about his kids and his challenges and some of the stuff that him and his wife are going to be going through as they go on.
You'll be hearing plenty about that.
Good. Yeah, this next section is called Let's Bitch. I'm not sure if we can say that. Wow, whatever. Yeah. But no, and I've also learned that Mark Wick, you have 2 of the most advanced, amazing grandchildren that anyone has ever had.
You know what? No. You should have learned that a long time ago because I've been talking about that for 2.5 years.
He's been telling you that.
Okay, sorry. Yes. I learned that you have 2,500 pictures of your grandkids.
That's better.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
So yeah, those are a few things that I've learned today from today's segment. What about you, Andy? What do you think? What have you learned?
I'd say I've learned that you three aren't just voices in a file that I download and edit together.
Is that good or bad?
I've met you before, but you
Right.
know, we haven't really talked face to face like this, you know, or face to face such as it is. I'm actually in a producer's booth, but
Right.
you know what I mean.
Yes. Glad
But
to have
yeah, I
you.
mean, it's definitely a lot different when you're on a podcast with someone talking like this, and you're not just the producer behind the scenes, and you're not just you know, hanging out in a living room or whatever, lounge kind of place.
So what I learned is Andy has to pay attention during this podcast and
Yes,
can't
now.
just sit there and play on his phone and watch YouTube videos. Okay, all right. See, learn a lot. What about you, Mr.
Us kids, am I right?
Yes.
Always
yes.
watching the YouTube videos.
Yep. He's back there with Chat GBT probably
Yep.
came up with his answers. What about you, Mr. Meyer? What have you learned in this episode?
I've learned a lot. I've learned I enjoy doing this with you guys. I do. I love the chance to talk about these things we've learned and sort of share this. I enjoy the back and forth. You know, I like to take those naps at my desk, so I think maybe 23andMe owes me some money because I didn't see any Japanese heritage in my results. So I've learned that talking openly about men and their mental health needs is really, really important. And I knew that before, but I'm reminded of it again because, Bill, as you said, so many of the men that we've met over the years at Face It, one of the best ways to get a guy socialized or at least give him an introduction to this is to listen to our podcast. I tell that to people all the time. I was giving a talk yesterday. When I left, there was a woman who said, my husband needs Face It desperately. How do I get him to do this? And I said, have him listen to a podcast. He can hear what we talk about. So I've learned that being back in this studio is important. I also have learned, and I agree, it's going to be great to have Andy as part of this. And I'm just excited to be doing it again.
Awesome. What about you, Mr. Wick?
Again, a lot. Number one, not that I learned, but it reinforced just what we're doing, that, you know, changing the narratives, starting the conversation, that those things are important. And hopefully that's what this will inspire. You know, also with Andy.
Wow. None of us expect this to be serious.
No idea what he's going to say, but go ahead.
No respect.
With Andy here, you know, one of the things is we talk about, hey, some of the things, Andy, that you know, you've heard in producing these podcasts and stuff is people talking about the tough times, the suicides, and all those types of things, you know. But let's not forget, people like Andy have mental health also, right? We all have mental health. But so often we wait till we're in that crisis situation. So, you know, maybe this will also get people to stumble across it who aren't in that crisis situation and be more proactive in their mental health to prevent them from having to go through some of the stuff that we went through. Besides the fact, like the people that say, hey, that's my dad, that's my husband, that's that there's a need for Face It. We know that. But also, it may be able to also play a preventative role in this whole thing because, again, think about if, you know, you talked about not having this when you were a new parent. What if you would have? Right? We talk about what if I'd have had this 40 years ago?
Right.
Boy, I would have been a better dad, husband, coach, person, all that stuff. So maybe, you know, not just for the people that are in it, I think that's the target thing, but a perspective of, you know, people that are in a good spot or just early on in that, there's still struggles, but to be able to take care of that ahead of time so it doesn't get to that crisis situation. Because we all have mental health.
And I think that I would love to do a show on that because we talk about preventative stuff and we can talk about diet and exercise and sleep, and we all know those things are good for us. And what I think I hear you saying, Mark, or what I think of is having guys before they're so lost in the deep end of the pool and unable to swim understand how they talk to themselves, how they view themselves, how they treat themselves, how they aren't kind to themselves. All these concepts that most of us don't give a whole lot of thought to until we are in crisis. And I think that those would be great episodes because it is about changing how you care about yourself and how you talk to yourself, many of those things.
Right, like how I talk to myself about I thought that was a good answer, but you guys are snickering ahead of time. So
Well, as soon as you said and Andy, we thought, oh, this
Well,
is
and
gonna
Mark's
be-
a sharp guy.
and in
He
the old
pivoted.
days-
He's lying. Mark, your nose is growing on
And
camera.
in the old days, I would have gone home and said, wow, why did I say it? But the other thing is, too, about the postpartum for men. Did I just get muted? No. The postpartum for men. The other research shows that during a pregnancy, the man is also very likely to gain 20, 30 pounds, like the mom.
Okay.
And even if you're a really exceptionally caring, affectionate grandfather, the same thing when your daughter-in-law become pregnant, you're going to put on that sympathy weight for the grandchild.
There's
so,
just
How
so,
many-
there's
how
so
many
much
people
I
in your
want to
family
say
are
are
pregnant right now?
oh, there's a lot. Can
Yeah,
you tell?
yeah.
But
I mean,
I'm there for all of them.
Well, yeah, you're there for all of them.
Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, no wonder you don't go out to New York. It costs extra for you to fly, doesn't it? It's interesting. The same guy that has the 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and 4-year-old that came to group also said something really important one time when talking about Face It. He goes, you know what? It's not my depression group. It's not my anxiety group. It's not my suicide or chemical dependency group. It's my life group. You know, the fact that he doesn't get any sleep and he's getting short and really resentful of his wife, that's not depression. That's not get on an SSRI. That's not that kind of stuff. It's life. And that's the power of this, because we're not going to have episodes, I assume, where we're talking nothing about brain chemistry or just this med and that med and all the different stuff. I mean, it comes up, but it's not the focus. Yep. It's about, we talk a lot of guys that are going through marital challenges, and we always tell them, this isn't about your wife. This is about you. Your wife's not here to defend herself or whatever. So we're going to talk about you and what you can do. Mm-hmm. So it's this is a life podcast. I know Face It talks about depression. Like Mark said, when we started, we had to put some word in there, and we just put depression. But it's about life, and we all go through it. You said we all have mental health. We all have life challenges too. And find a place, whether it's a podcast or something else, where you can talk and share some stuff. I mean, that's invaluable. So, with that said, that wraps us up for the very first coming back, we're back type podcast with What's the Point podcast here. I'm so glad to be doing this. I'm glad you three have chose to join. And
did we have a choice? Wait a minute here. Was that an option?
Well,
there was.
I needed the money.
Oh.
Well, yeah. There's that.
Andy has good coffee. So
you know what? I think
thanks,
Andy might
go.
be napping. No, he's back there.
No, that's why it's so dark in this room.
Yeah.
He's got that screensaver of his, like he's technically smart enough to be able to put that up so it looks like he's paying attention.
Yeah. It was
Mission
weird
Impossible kind of thing.
That window went dark for some reason.
Yeah.
No, this has been fun, and it's going to be a lot of fun going forward. We got some great guests lined up with some incredible stories, and we're really excited. So thanks you three for joining in. Thank you all you people that are listening. If you have any questions or anything, can be reached on social media, on Facebook, on X. Reach out to us more, and we'll see if we can help out. But other than that, thanks for listening to another episode of What's the Point podcast.
You've been listening to What's the Point podcast, where you are the point. It's real men telling real stories, from depression to anxiety. No doctors or professionals, just real men talking about real issues. For more, visit the Face It Foundation's website at www.faceitfoundation.org. To ask questions for future episodes, send us an email at wtpointpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at What's the Point Podcast, and find us on Twitter at WTPointPodcast. Till next time. This is What's the Point podcast. And remember, you are the point.